Weave along with me as we test out my new Saori WX60 loom. This just arrived from Saori Salt Spring. They shipped it all the way across the country for me, and I'm really excited to get it set up and start using it. It comes in a box mostly assembled, so the warp is already connected to your heddles and the reed, and you don't have to do a whole lot of work to get it set up. I would say it took me about half an hour to get it set up, and I did learn a few things along the way. I'm used to weaving with a Bake Leclerc floor loom, and it has a sectional warp beam on it, so I'm a little rusty on other methods of warping, but what I forgot, and I'm sure that this happens to many other weavers, but I forgot that you have to run your front thread over the beam and the warp has to go over the back beams. It has a bit of a different setup here, so it's got this reed that slides into your bar that holds down the warp instead of tying knots, which I'm used to. And it also came with a great instruction manual. There really wasn't a whole lot of setup to do, which was great. And it comes with its own shuttle, and the shuttle is a bit unique. It comes with these plastic tubes, and they sit onto this little device up here where you have a wheel and you can wind your thread onto those. I do have a great stash of yarns that I've been collecting. I haven't really been weaving for a couple of years, but I have been spinning. I have different types of handspun. I have some beautiful sock yarns that I bought from my local yarn store, and I also have just a whole variety of different things. So I'm going to try putting a few different types of yarn onto my bobbins, and then we'll give it a go, and I'll show you how it works with weaving. I don't exactly know the best way to start this, and so I think what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of the yarn through the tube and then slide it on and see if that holds it enough to be able to start. Looks like that worked okay. It's actually a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. This is just a normal sock yarn. So there we go. Not too bad. I'm going to do a few other types. Okay, I've ended up with a few different sock yarns. One is an 8x2 cotton. I have some handspun and I have some sari silk. So I am going to just start weaving. I think I'll start weaving with the cotton. To get the metal rod out, you just slide it up and over. So pretty easy to use. And then, seeing as you normally would, you're just going to run it through the hole here. The loom has 2 foot treadles, and so all you can really do is plain weave, and you move your warp threads forward just by turning this bar here. I don't have a ton of tension on there right now. I'm wondering if tension is going to feel really differently weaving on this style, but anyway, we'll just get started and see how it goes. So there is a nice ledge for your shuttle. I'm just going to switch. This is really thin, so it's a little bit hard to start with. So I'm just going to switch over to my handspun. I'm also used to having a floating selvage, so this is a little bit different for me. That's okay. So I can already see it's a lot better with a thicker yarn, and I kind of knew that would be the case. Do notice this side seems a little bit loose. Not sure how you can adjust tension with this kind of a setup with this bar, but I'm just going to keep adding tension and hoping that you can see this side is looser. You can buy warp wound onto paper rolls and it just fits perfectly on the beam at the bottom. But I think typically I'd like to be weaving a little bit wider than this. So I did buy one 3-wound warp, but I usually will make my own, and excited to see how that process goes. You get 6 meters of this black pre-paired warp already. So 6 meters is pretty good. I can definitely get some good products out of that. Here's what I'm noticing so far. The sock yarn definitely has a cleaner selvage, but that's okay because my hand spun I knew would be a different texture. But it is quite nice to weave with. The tension did seem to sort itself out as I kept going after a few rows. I've figured out how I move my warp forward yet. So down at the bottom, you do have this lock for your warp at the back. And then on this side, there is another style of lock. And I think I'm supposed to unlock this one and lock the other one, but I'm not super sure. I don't think I can do this with one hand, so I'm going to put you down for a minute. Okay, I've unlocked this side, and then I think on this side, oh, yep, that works. So you just pull this bar up, and it allows your warp chair loosen so that you can advance it using the beam at the front. So I've advanced my warp forward, so I have a little bit more room here. I'm going to test out adding in a few pieces of fabric. And obviously this is a really big part of Saori weaving. So the looms are supposed to give you enough kind of mix of tension and flexibility to be able to do this style of weaving easily. So let's see how this looks. If you're a new or even a veteran weaver, I would definitely suggest this loom to you. It is very easy to set up. One of the reasons why I wanted a different loom is because it takes me almost 2 full days to completely set up my other loom. And so it's creatively very exhausting. And there's lots of times where I don't want to start a new project because it just takes me so long. This is quick and easy to set up. I love that the loom can fold up and it's very easy to adjust your tension and get it working again. It was one of my frustrations with the rigid Heddle loom was I found it was really difficult to keep tension consistent. But because this has more of a traditional loom setup, it is really great at being able to hold your tension. Obviously, this will only do plain weave. I only have 2 Heddles here. There are a lot of really cool techniques that you can do using just plain weave. Things like twists and wraps, different ways that you can kind of play around with your warp threads in order to make something that is beautiful and unique. So I'm excited to learn some of those. The other thing that I would say is they've clearly thought about some of the things in weaving that are tricky or kind of are frustrating when you're starting weaving. So this is a good example. Sometimes it's really hard to tie your warp onto the beam at the front. And I love this little way that you slide the wood piece in here and it just holds it in nice and steady. It's less work to have to try to figure out. And I can see how in splitting your projects, this warp is 6 meters long. So if I want to weave a meter and then cut it off, that it would actually be super easy to just move this bar up and pull it back down. So I think that is an amazing little bit of genius. I do like the built-in bobbin winder. I think that is a great feature. I didn't think I would use it that much, but I actually didn't mind it at all. It didn't take very long. It was way less time than other bobbin winders I've tried. And I think that will be a very handy tool. The other thing that I like is the height. I have short legs. I am fairly short. I bought a chair from the thrift store that I thought would fit in underneath the loom, and it does fit perfectly. And so it's just the right height for me. I'm not bending over. My posture is really good while I'm weaving, so that matters, especially if you're going to be at your loom for a lot of hours. This nice ledge up here is amazing. I'm used to having a weaving bench where you put stuff down beside you, but I like being able to see it up top and be able to kind of imagine what I'm working with next or play around with that because everything's visually in front of me. So that is also really nice. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. I love this loom, and if you're wanting to give it a try, definitely suggest checking out your local Saori dealer. I know that there are only a few distributors of Saori looms, so I know in Canada, I think there's only 2. If you have a studio near you that you want to check out, I would absolutely take a class or just go in and learn a little bit more about the technique. But if you're used to looms, and you're looking for something that's just a bit easier, quicker to set up, and gives you a little more flexibility on what you're creating, but you're not totally wanting a rigid heddle loom, this is a great alternative. And it's definitely got a great combination of being a floor loom and having the features of a regular loom that allow you to do some pretty remarkable things. So that's my review. And again, this is the Saori WX60.